Wednesday episode of Student of the Gun Radio. Student of the Gun worldwide. That's right, 170 plus countries and counting. And we're counting on you to share so that we can get into 190 countries. Because we know there are still more countries that we haven't been heard in. We may not have been heard yet in Botswana. I don't know if we're being listened to in Eritrea or Eritrea, depending on how you pronounce it. I'm sure we're being listened to in New Zealand and Australia, places like that. North Pole, I don't know. North Pole's not really a country, though. What are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about good, interesting stuff. We got a Punisher collection. I promised you guys I was going to do this, and I made good on my promise. Precision rifle. We've got a Brownell's bullet points and a homeroom, all today on Student of the Gun Radio.
Stand by for education, enlightenment, enjoyment, and entertainment.
He's not here to talk about your feelings. He's not here to say what you want to hear. He's here to say what needs to be said.
Ladies and gentlemen, and children of all ages, please welcome your host, the pimp hand of America, Professor Paul Markle.
All right. Well, we've got myself in my studio. We got Jared in his studio. We got Zach in his studio. We got 3 studios going on right now, all linked via satellite. Yes, indeed. Let the people know if you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, or in Discord. If you're listening in Discord, whatever, and you got a question, throw it in there. The boys will monitor the comments, and they will decide whether or not it is worth repeating. Yes, indeed. All right, Jared, you want to hip the public audience to this thing called the Precision Rifle Training Course?
Yes, we have a precision rifle training course. It is in, what is this, August? Man, I just forgot the dates. I'm going to go to studentofthegungear.com and I'm going to look at the dates. August 6th through August 8th. We only have a few seats left, so if you want to do it, then do it. The way that we work this stuff pretty much all the time is our live training classes are exclusive to grad program for about a week or so. 2 weeks sometimes, and then we open it up to the public. This is the first public announcement for this, so I believe that it'll probably fill up fast. But that doesn't really affect you if you go there now. Shop SOTG.com. Check on the, Precision Rifle is what it's called. It's Precision Rifle, the Spirit of the Rifleman live training course. And you can go there. There's only one date for this entire 2021 season. So go there, do that. Food and lodging is included in the price of the class. So all you have to do is get your butt to the class, and that's it. And we'll feed you, we'll house you, and it'll be fun. And I really like this because you get to spend time with like-minded individuals and kind of sit over. Did we do fire last time or no?
I don't know. I don't think we did a fire last time because we were out there.
Well, it's kind of warm too, so. But we get to congregate with like-minded individuals around the dinner table and such. So it's a fun class, and we've got there's some reviews on the page if you want to go look at them.
Yep. Many of your peers have already taken the class and have left their review of the class. So if you're curious, and you're like, oh, I'm not sure, man, go read the peer reviews of people just like you, and then you can make a decision. So, all right, that is that. Precision Rifles coming up this summer. It'll be here before you know it. Oh, and of course, grad program members, there's a promo code for you guys to save some money. And you should know that. And if you don't know it and you're a grad program member, I don't know, contact one of the boys and they'll give you the promo code. We're not going to give it out on the public radio show, so nice try, though.
You should be able to log into the student lounge and go to the partner discounts page, and it should be there for you.
There you go. All right, let us go. Let us jump into the Brownell's bullet points of the day. All right.
You look concerned about something. Is there anything you want to say?
Yeah, it just seems in my ears that the bump music is super quiet. But if it's good on your board, then it's good on your board.
Everything seems okay on my board.
Okay. All right. Brownell's Bullet Points brought to you by Brownell's. I know. He's like, what?
No way.
So Brownell's Bullet Points is brought to you by Brownell's. So that's what you're telling me. That is what I'm telling you. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Well, why are we talking about this today? I promised you guys, I've been teasing you for a couple weeks or so, that I was going to do a Duracoat project. I was going to do a Duracoat project because 'tis the season. It finally warmed up. It finally warmed up out in my garage to the point where I could open the garage door and ventilate it and not have to worry about it being 22 degrees and snow blowing in. This weekend was actually gorgeous. It was perfect here. It was in like high 50s, low 60s, just a slight breeze Saturday and Sunday. So opened up the garage and I did my my Duracoat project. Now, something that we've been talking about for a while is slightly darker black. And if you don't know the slightly darker black story, well, I'm not going to take the time to explain it all right now, but it's a thing. And if you go to Duracoat Firearm Finishes, you can get a can of slightly darker black and World War II olive drab green and so on and so forth. So what I've got in my hot little hands right now, I have the Brownell's version, the Brownell's manufactured BRN 177 Echo 2, which is essentially a faithful clone reproduction of the XM 177 Echo 2. Going back to the Vietnam era, this was considered by Colt to be a submachine gun, which is weird. But I'm telling you, on the table of the T&E, or the table of equipment, this was listed as a submachine gun. It's not, but okay. What did I do? Well, I took the slightly darker black, and because it's a Punisher series now, we're not allowed to use the skull that the Punisher uses for fear that Disney Marvel will sue us. So, so this is the skull that I used. It's on a PMag right there. And the white is not a white, it's kind of a gray white. And this is the Urban Mirage Flage white. If you go to Duracoat, there's like 6 or 10 different whites. There's white ivory and snow and this and that. So it's something a lot of you guys who build guns or who have black rifles, you look at them and you say, okay, the upper receiver is a certain like bluish color, but the lower receiver is like adenized, and the barrel looks like it's Parkerized, and of course then the black, the furniture is black, so it's all different shades of whatever. So if you don't want that if you don't like that, well, then you just make it all one single color, slightly darker black like this, or any color you want, I don't care. And of course, what does Duracoat do? It treats the metal and it seals it and coats it so you don't have to worry about it rusting. Because Parkerized steel will rust, Jack. Now, obviously, your aluminum upper and your aluminum lower those aren't going to rust because aluminum doesn't rust. But your steel parts do. So I went ahead and did this. This, like I said, this is the XM 177 Echo 2 from Brownell's as part of their retro collection. I really, 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 really like this gun. For you hip cats, you may know that later on in life that they started calling this the Car 15. But the distinguishing feature of this gun, of the XM 177, if you're looking at old photos from Vietnam or photos from the 60s and 70s, is the muzzle device. That muzzle device is what distinguishes this as the XM 177 Echo 2. And they work really, really well. And what's strange to me is that Colt got away from them. As this design progressed, and you ended up with H bars and the A2 and the M4 and all that stuff, they basically left that muzzle brake, the flash hider, whatever you want to call it, flash hider. They left it behind, which is weird to me, especially on the M4, although I know why they did it, because on the M4, they still want to be able to mount a bayonet, and this is too fat for the bayonet ring, so you can't slip a bayonet over this. but you can, the other ones. But it's. I just thought you guys would be interested in this. We're going to go ahead and do more. We're going to talk about these actually, the individual pieces on Monday shows as we progress. I actually did 4 guns. I did 4 separate guns, and I'm going to talk to you about what those were and why they were and all that stuff. But if you guys are interested in that and you say, "Ooh, Mr. Cotter, I want one of those," well, great. Go to Duracoat.com and check out.
It's actually DuracoatFirearmFinishes.com.
Oh,
There
yeah.
you go.
DuracoatFirearmFinishes.com, but I was thinking brownells.com. I'm talking. But if you like that, go to Brownells and you click firearms, and then you go into the retro line, and they've got all the different retro stuff, the original stuff, things that the history of the M16 is actually very interesting to me. So I'm kind of into that. And if you're not, that's great. You don't have to be. I don't care. So we talked about Brownells. We talked about DuracoatFirearmFinishes.com. And the only other thing to say is SWAT Fuel still has 9mm plus P. So if you're looking for a kick in your rump, if you need a kick in the rump, if you need a little bit extra oomph, go to SWATfuel.com and use the promo code SOTG. All right, we can move on right now to our Wednesday. What is this? A PSA. We got a public service announcement. So Zach, if you're ready, play the PSA for Wednesday.
Attention, new listeners. We produced a complimentary online training course called 7 Training Tips That Could Save Your Life. Get instant access by joining the Student Lounge for free at studentofthegun.com. Do you watch Student of the Gun TV, read the blog, and follow us on Facebook? If you answered no to any of these questions, you are wrong, but you can easily fix yourself. Go to studentofthegun.com to find everything SOTG.
And yes, I know that's the wrong one. Let's just move on.
That's fine.
Da, da, dun, dun, dun.
Got it twice this week.
Twice in 1 week. All right.
The good news is that we have new listeners every show, so it
Got it.
applies to the new listeners every time.
Oh man! Remember on Monday, I said that often something will happen, and I'll realize that I have to talk about this again. Like Monday we talked about the pepper spray, and I said, 3 times in 1 week, from 3 different areas, I got hit with these questions or discussions or whatever about pepper spray and less than lethal. And I'm like, well, I guess it's time to talk about it again. Well, the same thing applies to concealed carry and priorities. So for today's Student of the Gun homeroom from Crossbreed Holsters, we're going to talk about, concealed carry and priorities. So Zach, play the intro music, please, and thank you. All right. That was Dangerous by Madison Rising, and we do have express written permission to use that in our show. So you algorithm robots on YouTube and Facebook and I was telling Jared off air earlier that I'm this far from going full John Connor and smashing the machines. I really am. Because, Jared, did you ever think about that? About the Terminator, right? So you had the Terminator and you had the machines. And what is everyone all panicked and afraid of right now, Jared? What's that 3-letter acronym that everyone's afraid of? We're hiding stuff in popcorn tins.
GOV?
No.
ATF, probably.
No.
I don't know then. What
EMP.
are you looking for? Oh, everybody's afraid of an EMP?
Yeah.
What?
Have you been on readyman.com or readyman Facebook? Yeah, everyone's always talking about EMPs. So my question,
I'm not. I welcome an EMP. I'm not afraid.
I know
of
I'm begging for one.
I think that they're all they're not afraid of them, are they?
Everyone's like, what about an EMP? What about an EMP? Um, why didn't John Connor and his band of rebels set off an EMP? That would have taken care of all the machines.
You're saying that
No,
like
because
that's a
they were
very easy
super
thing
machines.
to do.
It is. You just set off a nuke.
Because all rebel scum have nukes.
Oh, they're laying all over the place. Just go to Russia. You got $1,000 cash. Go to Russia. You can get a suitcase nuke. But anyway, you'd think that would have been the first thing that they decided, like, we have to do this because that'll take out the machines. But I digress. And this is when someone says, no, they had the circuitry was shielded. They knew, and so all their circuitry was shielded. It was EMP shielded. Okay, science fiction geeks. But let's go back to the really real world here, where we need to be dangerous on demand. All right, this subject has been coming up. I've seen it on message boards and so on and so forth. Concealed carry priorities. What are my priorities, or what should your priorities be? People spend a lot of time, and I believe too much time, focusing on accessories to add to their guns. Right? They're spending so much time focusing on accessories to add to their guns that they're forgetting about the other stuff. Now, are there some things on your firearm that will make it a better fighting gun? Yes. The number one, if you got an out of the box Smith or an out of the box SIG or an out of the box CZ or an out of the box Glock or whatever, the best thing you can do for that gun is to make sure that it has a super bright front sight and a dark rear sight that's not super bright. Okay. That you can see in all light conditions, whether it's bright light, whether it's shadow, whether it's nighttime. Now, I didn't say complete blackness. And this is another thing, Jared. Did you ever notice how people are like, you need the three dot tritiums so that you can, when there's no light, you can line them up. You line up the 3 dots. Are you lining up those 3 dots and shooting into complete blackness?
Yeah, that's not a good idea. And also, I can't remember the last time I was in complete blackness just throughout my daily life. I have to do it on purpose.
Yeah, so you're going to get up and go down a darkened tunnel where there's no light at the end, push the gun out in front of you, line up the 3 green dots, and start jacking rounds? Well, yeah. Well, no. Hey, dingus, you need to be able to identify your target. We don't shoot at scary sounds. We're not Joe Biden. We don't just get scared and blast the door with our shotgun, okay? In the really real world, you're 100% responsible for every bullet you launch. And people they send me these messages, or they post these messages about, the 3 dots are correct because in the complete darkness, you can line up. What? What are you saying? So you think in a self-defense situation, you're just going to point your gun into a darkened shadow and start blasting away? Have fun in prison. Or take, dude, can you imagine, Jared, how many times have we come to this microphone and pointed out cases where light saved people from tragedy? Or
quite a few.
Or where someone didn't have a light and they shot their own kid.
That would suck.
You want to get up every morning, walk into your bathroom and look in the mirror knowing that you're a mongoloid and shot at a darkened shadow because you were nervous and it was your child? No. No kidding. Then stop saying stupid crap like, well, in complete darkness, I can line up all 3 green dots and fire into the shadows. No, mongoloid, that's not how it works. Oh, Paul, you're being mean. I shouldn't have to be saying this. See, that's, people are like, oh, why you say you say things in a harsh way. That's not nice. I mean, people don't like that. Brothers and sisters, it's 2021. I shouldn't even have to address that. When I still have people arguing in favor of 3-dot tritium sites because in the darkness, you can line up the 3 sites. What in the world do you think you're shooting at in complete darkness? You're in your house, it's completely dark, you heard a noise, so you point your gun into the dark and start blasting away. You think that's a good plan? Bless you.
Bless you.
Don't you have a mute button? No,
that's funny.
I just heard you sneeze. Try it again.
It's okay. 1, 2, 3, go.
1, 2, 3, go. Calm down. Yep. So, what are the concealed carry fundamentals? Number one, stop worrying about lots of. Do you want to put a light on your gun? Yes or no? If you put a light on your gun, understand this. Putting a light on your gun requires you to take dedicated, specific training. Oh, no, I don't, Paul. It's just a light. It's just a flashlight. I just stick it on my gun. Now I got a flashlight on my gun. No, that's not how that works. You have a firearm that has a light attached to it. It's not a flashlight, okay? Because there's a lot of things in the world that you shouldn't point a gun at that you're going to want to point a flashlight at, okay? I know it's cool and it works, and in trained hands, it's a good idea. But what scares the living crap out of me is people they're like, I'm just going to buy stuff. I don't need training. I'm just going to buy stuff. No. Priorities. A solid, reliable handgun with a good, bright front sight. All right. You need to have some type of handheld. Even if you have, this is where people are going to lose it. Even if you have a light on your gun, you still need a handheld utility light. No, I don't, bogus. I got 1,000 lumen light on my gun. No. There are things that you might need, scary, bumpy noises in the dark. I need to light it up. Do you want to be pointing your gun directly at your father-in-law or your kid or your wife's face? Probably not. Probably not a great idea. You still need some type of a good, serious handheld flashlight. You should, before you leave your house, you should always have some type of a cutting tool on you, some type of a knife. Zach and I were talking about this the other day. I think it was Zach and I on the phone about how somehow in our world today, there are adult males walking around without knives on their bodies. And depending on where you work, people are like, hey, man, can I borrow your knife? You're like, can I use your knife? And you say, I have a better question for you. Where is yours? You say, I'm in my pajamas or my running shorts, so I don't have a knife on me. Okay, I'll give you that excuse. But if you're fully dressed and you're walking around and you're an adult man and you don't have some type of a knife on you, you're wrong. Oh, yeah. And if you're about to say, I'm not allowed, get out of my audience. If you're about to say, yeah, it's easy for you to say, Paul, but I'm not allowed, you missed the point of the lesson. Go. Or sit quietly in the corner while the adults talk. So you should always have a sharp cutting instrument on your body. There's no excuse not to. I mean, holy crap, Jared, it was like 10, 15 years ago. We did an entire, I wrote articles. I listed off 3 instances where mothers and fathers needed to rescue their children by cutting them free of stuff. You remember the escalator one where the kid was being choked to death on his coat?
Yep.
And the mother was clawing at it, with her hands and couldn't get it out. And the kid's like, oh! That was my choking impression. And a dude ran over with a knife and cut the kid out of his coat. Yeah, but that'll never happen. We've had multiple situations where people needed knives to free themselves, free their children, rescue them from something. Just do it. Jeez Louise, it's not hard. And then the other thing you should always have, if you're going to carry a gun, or even if you're not carrying a gun, you should have a traumatic medical kit, a small portable trauma kit. I didn't say the little square plastic box that you got for $3 at the dollar store that has Band-Aids and ibuprofen in it. That's nice, and I'm glad you have that. And people need Band-Aids. But when someone is bleeding, and all you have is Band-Aids and ibuprofen, that's not going to cut it. You need to have some type of a small, compact, traumatic medical kit on you all the time. And you need to take the training, Jack. Oh, there's no training available. Yes, there is. There's lots of training available. 10 years ago, I would have given you a pass and said, yeah, the gear's not really available, and the training's not really available. But today it is. Today it is. I mean, if nothing else, you can take one of these super generico stop the bleed classes. If nothing else, stop the bleed class. It's stopthebleed.gov or whatever. Thank you, U.S. government, for ripping me off. I should sue the crap out of them. I was doing that 5 years before they decided it was cool. Do you notice how did it ever occur to you, like when you're in the shower or on the toilet or something, that how far ahead of the world we always are?
Yeah. I mean, I talk about that all the time because the like if you look at the Apple TVs and the launch of our podcast and whatnot, it's like, oh, podcast we were early on, but not first. The Apple TV, we were literally first in our industry.
We were. We had a channel before NRA did. It's hilarious to me is we have our own television app. If you guys don't know that, it's on Roku, Apple TV, and so forth. We had satellite cable TV people contacting us 2-3 years after we already had our app, saying, hey, this next quarter we're going to launch on Roku. Do you want to buy some time on our station? No, I think I'll pass. Welcome to the party. Oh, man. So, concealed carry priorities. Your gun should be stout, reliable, have a easily identifiable front sight. It should be a sight that you can find in the bright daytime, in shadow, in cloudy days like today is, inside the building, outside of the building. You need to have, even if you have a light on your gun, you need to have a handheld utility light of some sort. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't get a dime from Surefire, but this stiletto, I've been carrying this for at least 2 years now, maybe more, every day. This stiletto is the bomb shizzle. Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
When they first came out with their executive, I was down with the executive, but the executive was round and it was about 1 inch to 1.5 inches. And it just didn't ride that well in the pocket. I mean, you could make it work, and I made it work for a long, long, long time. The E2D or the ED1 or ES, I don't know what it was called. It was a little short, fat one. That was my J-frame light. That was my everyday, all the day carry, right? This one's better. It's super crazy bright. It recharges with a mini USB or micro USB. I've probably recharged this, I don't know, dozens and dozens of times now. It has a tail cap switch. You're like, yeah, but I won't use it if it doesn't have a tail cap switch. It has a tail cap switch. Put it in your fist and boop, 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 boop. It has, I just dropped it on the floor, but it has a side button for super bright, medium bright, and super low. And if you put it on the super low one, it's good for just utility stuff, and it'll last forever, for hours and hours. I probably pull this flashlight out of my pocket and use it 2 to 3 to 4 times a day. There's no reason. And you're like, oh, those are super expensive. No, they're not. They're like $89 or $99 for the basic model. And it's I don't know if it's the last flashlight you're going to buy, but brothers and sisters, you're going to have it for just the money you save on batteries alone on 123 lithiums is within a year, it probably paid for itself. So
now all that being said, Surefire, if you wanted to send us some dimes, we wouldn't say no.
I don't even know who the marketing person at Surefire is anymore. I used to be like tight like peas and carrots with you know, not peas and carrots, but whatever, you know what I mean. I was like this, sometimes like that, you know, with the guys at Surefire, but those days are gone. So, lady, a knife. I don't care. You don't need to carry a bolo. You don't need to carry a Bowie knife, but you need to carry some type of sharp tool. My two go tos are either Surefire or Cold Steel. If I'm either or not Surefire, Spyderco, the other S. Right now, I'm carrying a. This is a lightweight. I think it's a Calypso or Calippo. I can't remember. It's a good knife. But if you buy a Spyderco knife, there's no such thing as buying a bad Spyderco knife. It's kind of like Cold Steel. There's no such thing as a bad one. There's just different kinds. I've never had a bad knife from either one of those companies ever. Oh, heck, this knife is the cover knife of the it's the featured image on Spyderco's site right now.
Oh, nice.
I just went into spyderco.com and that is the featured knife.
They must like that.
That's crazy. So yeah, there's no such thing as a bad Spyderco knife. It's called the Mannix too. That's it. The Mannix. Wow, they have all kinds of different Mannixes. You know why? Because it's super popular. You know why? They're all out of stock. All right, well, go to one of the dealers and get it. You don't have to buy it from them. And then a kit. Ladies and gentlemen, you need to have some kind of traumatic medical kit, especially if you're a parent. If you are a parent and you have children whose lives depend on you being a prepared individual, and you don't have the fundamental 4 on you, I don't even know what to say to you. I have my phone. Congratulations. You have your phone. So, oh, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. And the boys, is that an article? The Fundamental 4 article?
Yeah,
I wrote an article called The Fundamental 4.
That's funny.
What's funny?
I just said that the article. It's an article that you wrote.
Yep, and it's in there. So it's in the tab. It's in the tab right now, so you guys can. Oh, look at that! I actually used a featured image was a Spyderco knife. It was an Endura, Spyderco Endura.
Amazing.
Yeah, the Delica and the Endura. Yes, indeed. All right, moving on. What are we going to move on to? Well, it's funny. It's interesting. You know how like minds and so forth. So I was talking to Nicholas Orr, the author, this weekend. And I was, last weekend, I was telling him about how I was going to do the Punisher thing, right? And how I picked out a bunch of different guns and I was going to do them in black because that's what Frank Castle is black. What color is it? It's black. That is the Punisher's color, black and a little bit of white thrown in, right? Just to throw it off. So I was talking to Nick about that. And then we naturally, it led into, what did you think about the Punisher series on Netflix, a couple of years ago? When Jared, maybe Zach's better one to ask this. I guess it was about 2015 or so that Netflix got hooked up with Marvel and they started doing the shows. Which one was first? Was Daredevil the first one?
Daredevil was the first ever one they did.
Yep.
Okay. So they did Daredevil and then they did Luke Cage and Iron Fist and they kind of blended them all together.
Yeah.
And we were talking about that and we were talking about how, the whole, at least my generation was super stoked when Frank Castle showed up on season 2 of Daredevil, right? And season 2 of Daredevil was pretty disjointed. There was a lot of weird plot inconsistencies. Like this character, one day this character, super pro-gun, defend yourself. And then 2 episodes later, they're like, you can't take the law into your own hands and guns aren't the answer. What are you talking about? 2 episodes ago, you were all like, shoot them up. And now you're like, you can't take the law into your own hands and guns aren't the answer. What kind of queer freaking plot inconsistencies is those? So season 2 of Daredevil was kind of a crap sandwich, but the silver lining was the Frank Castle Punisher storyline, right? So on one hand, we're like, this is dumb, but on the other hand, we're like, yeah, boy, we sure do like to see the Punisher. So and we knew what they were doing. They did exactly like they did in the comic books. If you guys know your comic book history, the Punisher started out as a side character. And basically, he was a villain in a Spider-Man comic. He was a bad guy. And Spider-Man's like, no, you can't do that. That's mean, and stop doing that. And he's like, I do what I want. And Spider-Man, and so, and it wasn't until the 80s that they gave him his own dedicated storyline, his own dedicated comic. But while they were doing that, he was farting around with Daredevil and those guys, you know, New York City and Hell's Kitchen and so forth. And that's exactly what they did with the television shows. They introduced him to the audience in Daredevil, and then they let him go off on his own. And season one of Punisher was pretty good. Now, obviously, they made some historical changes from the original timeline, from the original story back in the 70s and 80s. They modernized it with the Gulf War and, Homeland Security and all that stuff. And so that was fine. I mean, I don't have a problem with that. So they finish out season one, and we're pretty much, I think everyone was like, that was really good. We enjoyed that. That was good. Can't wait for season two. Then, so we had to wait about an extra year, and then they come out with season two. We're like, oh, did you know Punisher season 2's out? I watched a couple episodes, and I was like, what the what? I was talking. So anyway, this whole thing. I went from doing the Punisher series of guns to talking to Nicholas Orr, my buddy, about the Punisher. And he said, that's all we're just talking about, Paul. I'm going to write that down. I'm going to write it all down. I'm going to write an entire article, an op-ed piece. And that's what it is. It's an opinion editorial. So right now, if you go to officialnicholasorr.com/Hollywood, there is an article by our buddy Nick Orr, and it's called Hollywood Writers Disgraced the Punisher. And most of the stuff that we talked about on the phone call is in the article. Talks about the inconsistencies. And I think, people are like, who do you think you are? Now, you're not a screenwriter. You don't work for a Hollywood studio. You shut up and take what they give you. No, because that has not always been the history of writers and authors. There are lots of writers and authors who have done good jobs, even though, just because it's fiction doesn't mean it has to be stupid. Just because the story is made up doesn't mean it has to be impractical. Because this isn't science fiction. This is taking place in the real world where we live. And you expect humans to behave like real humans. And in the article, I really like this. At the very end, Nick said, can fiction be realistic? I'm reading from the article. And can we hold true to real world facts despite telling a made up story? The late Tom Clancy was one of the great ones when it came to blending military and firearms realism with a fictional story, right? Webb Griffin was another one who was a master of blending historical reality and genuine people into his fiction tales of heroes and villains. Those are two great examples. You're like, you can't just always be realistic. Bull honky. Clancy did it. Webb Griffin did it. And unlike Hollywood, and Nick continues, he says, unlike Hollywood screenwriters living in their comfortable Los Angeles bubble, viewing the world through prism of a laptop, men like Ernest Hemingway wrote honestly and factually, even in fiction. Hemingway lived life. He traveled. He took risks. He hunted. He fished. He even shot sharks with a submachine gun. Look it up. It's true. How did he do that? Because when Hemingway was alive, you could go to a hardware store and buy a Thompson submachine gun and walk out with it. No. There's no way you can tell me in America a person could walk into a hardware store or a gun shop and buy a fully automatic submachine gun. Yeah, you could. We did that for years until they decided that peasants couldn't be allowed anymore. Yeah. So Hemingway shot sharks with a submachine. Can you imagine being on a freaking fishing boat off the coast of Miami and you got a marlin coming in and here come the sharks to get your marlin and he's like, I don't think so. Papa, don't play that. Whips out his Thompson. Rattle, 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 rattle. Even Hunter S. Thompson with his gonzo journalism did not just sit behind a desk and pontificate. He went out and experienced life. And that really is my takeaway. You know, you're like, oh, who's this Nick Orr guy to criticize Hollywood writers? What does he know? Well, look at the examples there. Those are I just gave you 4 examples of professional writers who wrote fiction, but wrote it realistically and practically and didn't have to do stupid, inconsistent, dumb crap. Because they didn't just sit in a little writer's office in Los Angeles, you know, and go drink boba tea, you know, in the afternoon. They went out and they lived life. They experienced life. You guys got like Hemingway. He was all over the world. And if you read about Ernest Hemingway, there were a lot of times when he had scars and so forth from close encounters. But he went out and lived life. I don't know the personal habits of Webb Griffin or Tom Clancy, but I know that those guys wrote fiction and it was realistic and it was real fiction. It was fiction that you could believe. So there's no excuse. The whole thing like, oh, well, you know, they just don't know any better. No, it's intellectual laziness. It's just droning out schlock because you've already decided that you have whatever view of the world and you don't really care about reality. You're just going to, and you say, all right, Paul, you and Nick Orr are a couple of curmudgeons. It doesn't matter. Yes, it does. How does it matter? Whether it's good or bad, whether it's you know, a nice thing or a bad thing or a neutral thing, Americans form their opinions about firearms and firearms-related things, self-defense, so on, based on what they see on television movies. And you and I look at each other and say, that's stupid and you shouldn't do that. I know that. I 100% know that that's stupid and they shouldn't do that. But the fact remains, whether you and I know that, doesn't change the fact that women and men walk into gun shops to buy stuff based on their perception and the perception that they got from that idiot box that they watch. Why, you know, why do you think people regurgitate stupid crap about how it doesn't matter, you know, if you can't do it in the first 2 shots, you probably can't get done, or, you know, ad nauseum, shoot them in the leg just to stop them, you know, never mind that big fat, you know, inch wide artery that runs up the middle of your thigh. Do you know if you open up an artery or sever an artery, you will be dead in 4 to 5 minutes without immediate medical treatment? Dead, gone. From a bullet through the leg? No, I just shoot him in the leg just to stop him. That's not how that works. It's not how any of this works. I'm getting my mileage out of that. I'm really getting my mileage out of the insurance lady. But seriously, you say, well, it's not a big deal, Paul. It's just a story. It's just fiction. It's not reality. But here's the thing. They sell it like it is. And people develop perceptions based upon that. That's why it's important. There you go. If you want to read that, the entire article, the link is in the show notes right now. You can just click to it, link it, read it, all that stuff. There you go. Questions. We got a question. I might have an answer. Let's see.
We've got one question that it's pertaining to the science of sight, and it gives you a good opportunity to talk about it. This gentleman Gerardo here from Facebook says that he said in relation to the night sights discussion, he said agreed, but what does that have to do with using your rear sight post? There's a great benefit to having a light. When you use the light, the dots become non-existent, but I still train to use my sights in conjunction with my light. So I presume what he was saying is that he still trains to use the rear sights and the front sight post in conjunction with the light, which is actually impossible. And I'll let Dad tell you why.
Yeah. Here's the reality of the human animal. The human animal's vision you cannot focus clearly on three objects at the same time. You have an inability to do that. You don't. Unless you're an alien or a fly, the fact is you can only focus at one distance at a time. You're like, okay, what's the big deal? Who cares? Well, who cares is when you punch a pistol out, when you push it out in front of your face, now you have three things in your field of view. You have a rear sight, you have a front sight, and you have a target. But you can only focus clearly on one of those objects at a time. You say, okay, I'll focus on the target, which is what most people do instinctively. And what they do is they focus hard on the target, and then there's other stuff in front of it, and their brain instinctively, without thought, says, hey, I want to see that thing, and you holding your hand out there with crap in it is obstructing that thing. So what I need to do is I need you to lower that thing out of the way so I can see the threat better. And what people will instinctively do is they will shoot low because they're focusing really hard on the target and they want to see it. Their animal brain wants to see it, and now there's something obstructing it, so they got to get that out of the way, so they lower the gun. You need to teach yourself, you need to practice, you need to do the 10,000 hours of placing the clear front sight in the center of whatever you want to shoot. Is this difficult? Does it require effort? Yes, it does. Yes, it does. For years and years and years, we've been talking about the go code, or how do you know when it's okay to press the trigger in a self-defense situation? How do you know? How do you know that your gun is that the muzzle is indexed on the target? What indication in the world tells your brain, okay, the muzzle, which is the dangerous part, which is where the bullet comes out, that it is indexed onto the thing I want to shoot? What is your go code? The front sight.
Mm-hmm.
When your brain acknowledges that front sight is clear and it's right on and covering over the thing you want to shoot, that is your brain's go code. Okay, I know I'm good. I know that the bullet's going to go where it needs to go, not the rear and not the target. If you're focusing on the target, you don't know where the muzzle's indexed. If you're focusing on the rear sight, everything else in front of you is totally gone. You can't focus clearly on a rear sight with your eyes, with your human eyes, and have focus on anything else that's in front of it. It's simple science. And we keep fighting against that, and we keep ignoring it, and we keep pretending that it's not a reality, but it is.
This is all detailed inside of an article that we put together for you guys. It's actually inside of the Everything You Need to Know About the Accurate Sights article. There's a section called The Science of Sight. If you want to go there, I linked it directly in the show notes. So if you click that link, it'll take you directly to the section that we're talking about. But if you want to just go to studentofthegun.com and search for Accurate Sights, and then you can find that article and you can read the entire thing if you want to.
There you go. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Are we sufficiently giving people enough material? Okay.
Yeah, we're definitely good.
All right, ladies and gentlemen.
If you're not in the Discord channel yet, go to studentofthegun.com/Discord. It'll take you to a little landing page that gives you directions on how to join the Discord server. Go do that. Get into the Discord.
Yes, indeed. And remember, cats and kittens out there, you're a beginner once.
You're a student for life.
We appreciate your reviews. If you haven't left a review or updated yours recently, head on over to Facebook, iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, or your favorite podcast player to voice your opinion. Don't forget to join us at the Student Lounge, a place for like-minded individuals to learn, connect, and support each other. No chicanery will be tolerated. Remember to check studentofthegun.com daily for new, free content and giveaways. Watch, listen, read, shop, and connect at studentofthegun.com. Are you a social butterfly? Connect with us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter for new content each and every day at Student of the Gun. Watch Student of the Gun TV and videos from our trusted partners on Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, Chromecast, and even AirPlay. Go to studentofthegun.com for direct links, and remember, you're a beginner once, a student for life.
All right.
So you couldn't hear that at all.
No.
We could hear it a little bit, but yeah, it's like your Zoom settings are set to cut out the background noise.
They are.
Yeah, so that's the problem. It's cutting
So
out the music
It
because
thinks the music is background noise.
Well, if we turn it off, then there's a high-pitched squealing that we can't get rid of.
Well, I don't want high-pitched squealing.
well, there you go.
All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in. And, yeah, check out the Foley episode on Monday. Or Tuesday. Tomorrow. Whatever. Wednesday.
Wednesday.